So now the ball has this like concentrated, it's got like the center of gravity of nonsense that it's grabbing. Again, remember Katamari. Did you ever play Katamari?
No.
Oh, okay. But are you familiar with the game? It's the one where you're like the alien rolling up the ball and it just gathers a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
It's like this magnetic ball. It's really fun. It's a fantastic game. So this is like Katamari, but horrific.
Death.
And death. And it bursts. And so it keeps going down and it hits a few villages on its way down, right? So remember, Johnstown is the biggest one, but there's a couple of little villages, a couple little towns. It takes out this train. So at one point there's like a train yard and some train conductor is like, oh shit, what is going on? There's like, he sees the tsunami. So he like slams the train into reverse and he's like, honk, honk, like trying to warn people. But nope, that thing just gets swept into it. Everybody dies. Everybody's in the flood. Everybody's trapped in it. Now it has train parts. It's got like train cars. It's got like train tracks.
Okay.
And it keeps going. And the last stop before it gets to Johnstown is, remember the Cambria Iron Company, the steel mill?
Oh, yeah. More debris.
It hits the steel mill. And of course, the steel mill has all kinds of crazy steel-based stuff that they're making. But this is truly where it gets horrific. Guess what else they're making in the area? Guess what else they're making there at the time?
What?
Miles and miles and miles of barbed wire.
No. No. Are you serious?
I swear to God.
So
now
this is a cartoon.
Yes.
It's like they hit the Acme company and there's like bombs and TNT.
Literally, yeah. It's straight up, yeah. This is straight up like an old Chuck Jones cartoon. So it hits the steel mill company and all this debris is now covered in barbed wire. Barbed wire.
Okay.
So then there's like trees, boulders, railroad tracks, train cars, a train conductor, dead bodies, houses, all wrapped in barbed wire, going at 40 miles an hour towards a town of 30,000 people.
Wow.
I mean, I couldn't write this in terms of how horrific this is.
No.
And so it takes about an hour from the time the dam breaks to get down to Johnstown. So at around 4 p.m. I'm sorry, Johnstown. Yes, I keep screwing this up. At around 4 p.m., it hits Johnstown. And, I could get into believe me, I read a lot about this. I don't really want to get into sort of like how horrific it is when it hits them.
Yeah.
Because it's just not fun. It's just not fun. It's basically like whatever your imagination is thinking, it's that bad, but probably worse. And the entire town is just gone within about 10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Yeah. And don't forget, people are caught off guard. They're all like, there was a different flood. Some of them were trapped in their houses. Some of them were just trying to they're like, what? So most people are just like, they turn their head to see like what's going on and then they're gone. Drowning, getting crushed by houses. So many of them get caught in barbed wire. It's just horrific.
I hate this.
Yeah, it's so awful. It's so awful. And the water just keeps going crashing down and it hits these hills that surround the town. So basically there's one swipe where it comes and it knocks everything out. It like basically clears most of the town, but some of the town is still standing. And then the water hits like the hills that are around the town. And it just bounces back. No. And then it does like a second pass, a backward surge.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sorry. It's so bad.
No, I can't. I'm trying not to laugh because that's all I can do right now.
No, I understand. Like I said, when I was reading this, it's the, just so you guys know, it's not the laughter at the death. It's the laughter from the extreme discomfort at how horrific it is. And we don't know how else to react to it. Yeah.
The fact that it's like a cartoon.
Mm-hmm. And eventually it hits the stone railway bridge that's at the end of town, which is another kind of like arched railway bridge that has trains go over it. Okay. And that acts as another blocker. But thankfully, that actually manages to split it into like 3 different streams.
Good.
Which unfortunately spreads it across and just and like floods 3 different parts of the town. But at least like the main gigantic, tsunami is broken up.
Right.
Much like how Steve Jobs says, right? You're like, oh, and one more thing.
Okay.
Remember the Katamari ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
The Katamari ball of debris, and at this point, barbed wire, dead bodies, houses, all that stuff.
You're the Steve Jobs of podcasting, by the way.
That's the nicest thing anyone's ever said to me. Thank you. I'll
You're
wear
welcome.
it on my mock turtleneck next time. Yeah.
Yep.
Anyway, so that debris ball has gotten lodged into this bridge. It stopped, thankfully. But the last stop that it hit was all the people in Johnstown, right?
Oh, okay.
No. I don't doubt that some orphanage got ruined. So it hit the people of Johnstown. Don't forget, the people of Johnstown have been trapped in their houses for the past day or so because of the floods. And it's cold. So what does that mean? They all had open flame furnaces on, heaters, stoves, and lamps. They were all running. So you can see where this is going.
Yeah.
So this pile of debris with trees and houses and all this wood meets all these furnaces and heaters and stoves and lamps. And what do you got? You got a burning inferno wrapped in barbed wire. Unbelievable. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable.
How did it get worse? How? That's insane.
The fire rages for almost 3 days straight.
What?
Yeah. It's a 3-day fire. And separate from all the deaths that happened, 80 people just died from the fires. That's not even from the flood, but just from big people who were like, had somehow managed to like avoid the flood part of it, all caught fire and died.
Yeah. Nope.
Yeah. They're like, oh, I made it. Done. Dead.
Wow.
Thankfully, that's the end of that sort of horrific, awful death part.
Wasn't too bad.
Yeah, right? Very low key. So the town's done. And on June 1st, that's when the town officially begins the recovery process. So the final death toll, including the fire and everything, was 2,209 people.
That's so many. How many were in the town again?
Total, I think it was like somewhere between like 20 to 30,000 people were in the town.
Okay. Wow, that's like 2% of the population. Well,
yeah.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
I'm going to pretend like I know.
I think it was 10%, but 99 entire families are wiped out.
No.
Meaning like mom, dad, children, entire lineage, like bloodlines just gone.
Wow.
Everybody in the town, every single person in the town had at least one person that died. So nobody was unaffected. Every single person had somebody in their lives that they lost.
Oh, sad.
Bodies turned up as far as 600 miles away in Cincinnati.
What?
Yeah. Because of the flood, because the water was just like, bleh. and were found as late as 1911.
What?
So this is like
20 years.
Yeah, 20 years later.
We got another one, boss.
That was the force of this thing. Yeah, they're like, And, there's no railways, there's no roads, there's no food. And perhaps most tragically ironic, there's no water because everything's been, soiled by all this insane dirt and feces and dead bodies and dead animals. Like, they can't even drink water. It's so bad. It's so bad.
That made me want to puke. The combination.
It's gross.
So what do they do?
Here's the part that's probably the worst for the club. There's no record of what happened to all the fish that they tried so hard to save. So it's presumable that they all died as well, unfortunately.
How did it get you worse?
So very quickly, though, help starts to pour in. Everybody in America is like, basically like us. They're traumatized. They're like, they can't even like wrap their heads around how insane this is.
They're all looking at the dams in their towns being like,
they're like, what?
Maybe we should do something.
Yeah. So, there's this huge relief effort. They fix the railways as quickly as they can so they can start bringing in food and water and support. Volunteers just start pouring in. Fun fact, including Clara Burton of the American Red Cross.
Really?
So she had just founded the Red Cross, the American wing of the Red Cross like a couple years earlier.
Oh, she's
but
awesome.
It had been sort of smaller. So this actually marks like the first significant disaster that Clara Burton and the Red Cross had responded to.
Whoa.
And sort of cements them as the big force that they went on to be known for.
Wow.
This was it. This is like their coming out party kind of. Clara Burton, she remained there specifically for about 5 months working nonstop herself.
She's amazing. I have a tab open about her because I was
going to say that would be an interesting one to go. Yeah, I'd be interested in knowing more about
it's on my short
her
list.
whole life. Maybe that's one that can be a derivative of this.
Maybe.
And once the final floodwater had dissipated and gone, they were left with about 30 acres of debris, and some of it went up to 70 feet tall.
No.
And remember, this isn't just debris that they can, first of all, they don't have like excavators and like construction work stuff that they could just come and like get rid of it. And it's all like trees and like broken houses, all covered in barbed wire. It's not like stuff that you could, it's so bad. They can't just go pick it out. So one of the things they had to do was hire like a demolitions expert to clear some of these gigantic piles because it was so unsafe.
Wow.
It took them months and months and months to get rid of just the debris. Forget the fact that it took them, how long it took them to actually like rebuild the town.
Well, they rebuilt then.
And yeah, people around the world were moved by the tragedy, and they collectively sent millions of dollars in donations. Their hearts opened up.
Oh.
You know, everyone's kind of rallying together. They're doing the best that they can. You know who didn't really do that? Didn't really get into the support thing?
Who? Rudy Giuliani.
The Rudy Giuliani, he was too busy eating pizza.
Yeah.
The wealthy club owners.
Oh.
The members of the club, some of the richest human beings on the planet. On the planet.
What, they just like disappeared, left?
They donated like a couple $1,000s and like 1,000 blankets.
Oh.
And that's it. They might as well have been tossing like rolls of paper towels at them, essentially. They were just like, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. Yeah. I didn't get rich by complaining. I got rich by having my daddy do it and exploiting people. Yeah, by being bored.
By being a Rockefeller. That's horrible.
It's horrific. Yeah,
I'm really glad that
horrific
rich
is the word I
people
just keep coming back
changed.
to. Yeah.
I'm so glad they learned from that lesson. They learned their lesson.
So naturally, but thankfully, public opinion is like, oh no, these people need to die. Like these people are awful. People are pissed.
Well, yeah.
You know, they can't control it the way that they could, like, let's say, like, you know, maybe 50 years later when they start buying up newspapers and stuff.
Right.
And calls for justice against the South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club get like crazy. People are like, they start to rally around each other because they're like, these people are clearly victims of the negligence of this club.
Yeah.
And the press is there and they're just writing all these reports about Ruff. Remember, Ruff was the guy who was the one who bought the club. He's actually, remember, from the time that he bought the club and made all these changes to the time this flood happens, he's since passed away. He died, like, I think about 2 years before this.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Because he's an older guy. So he's not even there to be, you know, liable for it or culpable. But everybody is like, dude, this is clearly, like, this is obvious that what happened here. Everybody sort of understands it. And like I said, the press is doing all these reports. Everyone's like, Ruff screwed this up. And all these locals who lived in Johnstown, remember, like I said, so like nobody was actually, like very few people were members of that club because they couldn't afford it.
Right.
And they were sort of like looked down upon from this like ivory tower, like douche fest from up there. So they're like, yeah, we'll talk to anybody. We don't care. Like, screw those guys. It was like, yeah, it was like war. And public sentiment is like united. Like everyone hates the club. Everyone hates Ruff. Everyone hates these people. And it's, again, it didn't help them that the club is basically like, we'll give you like $1,000 and some blankets. So it's like people are unified.
Insulting.
Heads need to roll. Yeah. And all the people in the town, a lot of people in the town start filing lawsuits. So they're like, we need to bond together and like basically hold these people responsible and sue them. And because they've lost everything, they have nothing.
Right.
They have nothing left. Nothing is there. So many people, at least one person died. In some cases, everybody in their family. So heads need to roll. Meanwhile, the American Society of Civil Engineers is like, we need to investigate, because that's like the scientific body that's going to come in and sort of and write a paper that's going to prove what happened, or prove why what happened, because, you know, they want to help out. And they commission a report, and they send like their top dudes. Like, these are some of like the top minds of, you know, civil engineering and like dam people and like hydrologists and all this stuff. Like, these are like the guys who know what's up. And they write this report, and the report concluded that, amongst other things, to save money, the state of Pennsylvania failed to include a masonry heart wall in the middle of the dam. So what that means is that their M&M didn't have a peanut center.
So dumb. Wow.
They didn't put the peanut in there.
Man.
They scrimped on that. And had they put that in there, they didn't put the damn peanut in. It's a damn mess. Had they put that in there, it would have provided a vertical structural support for earth and riprap to be built around. Riprap is like bigger rocks that they put on the outside wall. It's like a lining. Riprap is what it's called. Yeah.
It sounds like an old white lady trying to remember what rap is called.
Rip rap. This hip hop and rip rap. The ASCE also reported that the South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club were also at fault because of the unprofessional quality of the work it commissioned, which, quote, materially diminished the security of the dam.
Well, yeah.
So everyone's like, great. Like, shit's going to go down, right?
No. It went down?
It's not. No, it didn't go down.
Nothing happened?
Despite those findings, the report came to the conclusion that the dam would have eventually failed on its own, despite the breadth of unprofessional work the club had undertaken.
Who paid for that?
Quote,
somebody.
For people who aren't watching the video, I'm tapping my nose.
He is tapping it.
Quote, the breach occurred a little earlier in the day on account of the changes, but disaster would have happened either way, given a storm of appropriate size, just like the one that rolled through central Pennsylvania on May 31st, 1889. And everybody's like, dude, excuse me, what? No. False, incorrect, fake news.
Fake news.
Doesn't make any sense. And so when the report failed to assign fault for the dam breaking, it shielded the state of Pennsylvania and the South Fork Hunting and Fishing Club against lawsuits.
What?
So flood survivors never received compensation for the tragedy. Nobody got money. Nothing happened. They just got away with it.
I'm speechless.
Yeah. So terrible. And sadly, that's where their story sort of just ends.
Huh.
There's like,
okay.
That's it. There's no like, people didn't come in and like fix it. They just were like, sorry, eat shit. Like, half your family's dead, whatever.
Again, I'm so glad we've learned, you know?
Yeah. Well, there are a couple of fun postscripts to this story.
Yeah. Fun. Okay.
Okay. So everyone's pissed about this. Like I said, public opinion is very much in favor of this. So as word of this justice and spread, it led to the push for strict liability laws.
Oh, good.
I was going to go down. I decided that like I had spent way too much time and way too many tabs on this, so I wasn't going to try and understand the law.
Yeah, no.
To the extent that I could, because I was like, I've already become a dam expert. I can't be a law expert as well. But the short version of it is, strict liability laws exist when a defendant is liable for committing an action, regardless of what his or her intent or mental state was when committing the action. So basically, up until that point, if they couldn't prove you had deliberately screwed up, like in an email or something, they couldn't charge you with anything. So in this case, regardless of whether or not the club had like deliberately like known and were making a mistake and screwing it up, they couldn't charge them with they couldn't like hold them liable. But essentially laws changed after that, where they were like, it doesn't matter, you own that dam.
Right.
And whether or not like you think you're doing a good job, you are liable for this, and you will have to pay out even if you
the second you bought it.
Exactly, yeah, because it's yours. So basically overall throughout the land, that happened as a result, or I shouldn't say like directly, but like basically it inspired everybody to be like, these laws don't work. Like, this is terrible. This is horrific.
Good.
So people kind of rallied together. I didn't really want to go too far into it, but there might be some sort of like Supreme Court case or something, but I couldn't find it just within my sort of cursory understanding of this.
Yeah.
A fun little story is The official, there's two more little postscripts. The official number of deaths had been 2,209, right?
Yeah.
But in the year 1900, a man named Leroy Temple came to visit his old friend in Johnstown.
Okay.
So it's about 10 years later. He came from Beverly, Massachusetts. This was a guy who used to live there. He was caught in the debris, carried all the way down to the stone bridge, which is where the enormous fields of debris were.
Yeah.
And he had managed to grab a suspended rail and pulled himself out of the debris. And he was badly injured, but recovered enough in several weeks. And when train travel was established, he just was like, cool.
He just
left? He took his family and moved. He took his family and moved to Beverly, Massachusetts. But I guess nobody really knew.
That's amazing.
Yeah. So he worked as a teamster and a furniture mover until his death in 1913. So the official death count
was
lowered to 2,208 because Leroy Temple did survive and he came back to visit.
Wow. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's like those people who went purposefully disappeared after 9/11.
Oh, I don't know much about that.
Oh, I'll save that then.
Okay.
People who use disasters who are like on the verge of ditching their life, and then a disaster happens, and they're like, "This is it."
Yeah. Time to go start a family 2 towns over.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. I mean, cool. That was horrible.
Not cool. No, I mean, like that was like a nice little thing for him. But
yeah.
Lastly, this is the last point I'll make. So Neil Coleman is a professor in the Department of Energy and Earth Resources at the University of Pittsburgh in Johnstown. This dude grew up there.
Whoa.
This is now, by the way. This is modern times.
Okay.
So he learned of the flood growing up in Pennsylvania. It's a thing that people all talk about and they all know about. And he's got extensive hydrological experience as a geophysicist and intuitively understands the entire area around the Conemaugh River and stuff.
Yeah.
And he was like, listen, this 1891 ASCE report is like very suspect to me. This does not add up. I don't understand what this deal is. So the investigating committee didn't acknowledge, for example, that they had lowered the crest of the dam. Remember, like to make it for carriages. And he was like, he's like, these would have been some of the top minds in civil engineering at the time. Why would they not have that in there? And so he's basically like, so the quote he says is, seeing the report made by some of the most prominent engineers of the day and the things they overlooked made no sense. So he began to study the hydrology of the disaster in an attempt to comprehend how they came to the conclusions. So he assembles Coleman, he assembles like this Ocean's 11 of like dam and hydrologist nerds.
Awesome.
And it's really cool actually. And like he conducts an on the ground research of the remains of the dam. They like compile newspaper articles, help wanted ads, worker and survivor testimonies, and even the journals of the original builders. And they sort of try to reconstruct all the conditions that of the dam on the day that it collapsed. And again, there's a bunch of stuff that people have written about this. I do not understand it, but long story short, they did a bunch of crazy smart nerd tests.
Nice.
I don't mean that in a pejorative way. I mean that in like I don't understand what you guys are talking about, but I'm glad that you people exist and are doing this way.
So I can draw my little comics in a world that won't collapse.
Right, so I don't die when I drive over a dam or get like swallowed by a flood. And the team published their research in 2013 and 2016 in a series of papers. So ultimately, as opposed to the ASCE's conclusions published in 1891, Coleman and company found the dam would have survived hydrologically had it not been for the repairs commissioned by the club. So they go on to say, even if extremely high lake inflows had continued unabated, overtopping of the dam at its original design height would have been averted for around 14 hours. In the absence of alternate failure mechanisms such as piping, the dam would have been preserved because lake inflows would have substantially diminished during the afternoon and evening. So this is the crazy part. Their calculations found that adding 3 feet to the dam's crest, basically on the edge of the bathtub, basically bringing it to the original height before the club built the carriage paths across it, would have allowed it to store an additional 1.6 million square meters of water without overtopping.
Wow.
So, basically the carriage is what ruined it, the carriage path.
So
all the other stuff was screwed up too. It didn't help, but like that was sort of like the icing on the cake.
We want a carriage road.
Yeah, and so he starts looking at it, and he's like looking at the paper, and he's just like, I don't doubt that the investigators carried out the work using the best methods available at the time. But the team's research started to show rounds of anonymous edits and repeated delays in publication that seemed to minimize the club's responsibility and report the findings to the public only after some of the anger about the disaster had subsided. So he's like, long story short,
wow,
the report has parts that don't look consistent.
Doctored.
And there's reports, and it also kept getting delayed, potentially because they thought that like public opinion would sort of like, the public outrage would die down and would subside.
It didn't.
And of course, the team noted that the social connections between members of the ASCE and the South Fork Club likely influenced the conclusions the commission had reached. So the fact that it contains, and this is his last quote, he says, the fact that it contains so many important omissions tells me that someone edited stuff out of this report.
Wow.
All I can go by is the science and engineering in the report, and the things that are missing just don't make sense.
I wonder who did.
Coincidence? I think not.
Definitely not. So somebody, wow,
Yeah.
that's horrible. I think that
That's a
probably
conspiracy,
happened all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Very much. It happens a lot. But they can scientifically prove that they're like, yeah, no, this is a bunch of bullshit. Like that was clearly the reason for it.
Wow. Well, that's a nice like closure for that though. At least we have some answer of like, oh yeah.
We have some answers. Yeah.
These people should not have made a road where they shouldn't have made a road. And
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. Shouldn't have put a bunch of fish in there, even though the fish are cute.
Yeah.
Which was the reason,
and remember,
right?
It was not, none of this is like, oh, it's different times and they didn't know. It's like, no, they knew better. They all knew better. They knew better. They were warned. People told them about it. The people who worked at the club told them about it. The people who were like members of somebody from the club, that guy, remember Neckbeard was like, dude, this is a bad idea. They just didn't give a shit.
Wow.
No.
I feel like I was taken on a big ride. I say that every episode, but this time I mean it. I'm like tired.
Covered in barbed wire and like yeah, I'm sorry. I should have split this probably into like two more, but I was like, I need to get this off my chest because there's too much stuff.
This will just be an extra long episode. That's okay.
Yeah, I went very crazy with this one, but thank you I'm so glad to dump this out of my brain and just not have to think about it anymore because that was so much I had to research.
I can't believe I've never heard about this. Cause
I was surprised too. I was like, I'm like, I haven't heard much about this within. I mean, there's other people who have like, there's YouTube videos and there's like a couple of podcasts, but like of the mainstreamy kind of stuff that we both listen to or are aware of, there hadn't really been something that was substantial about it. I was surprised.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Right.
I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
I'm like, I like, yeah. The adrenaline was like there. And now I'm deflated.